Jellyfish is Tracy, and today we're going to be talking about Aether Revolt red cards. You know, as I was looking through and filming, 3 of these videos prior, I realized that this is a really solid set. I find myself kind of looking at a lot of cards being like, wow, I want to talk about this card. And as I'm talking about I didn't count how many of each color, but say there was like 25, I'm like, I want to talk about like 20 of these because there's a lot of really, really awesome stuff in this set. That's, I think, one of the advantages I feel like of kind of smaller sets is that I think a lot more of the cards are really, really solid and it's easy to like remember it, but if there's like so many more cards, a lot of things kind of feel like get lost in the shuffle and you're like, yo, this card's in the set. So I think like that's a really good advantage of smaller sets. So as far as I know, this is small. It looks really small from what I'm gathering. So gathering, get it? Didn't do that on purpose. Okay. So red cards, let's talk about them. The first card I want to talk about is Lightning Runner. I kind of have mixed feelings about this card, but I feel like I like it. I think that it works really, really well in that energy counter type of deck. If you don't have it, this card's not that overwhelming, but still a double strike haste for 5 mana is pretty good. The fact that you can play it, again, even if you're not doing a whole energy counters, but it is when it attacks, so you can rack up those energy counters on their own. It's got that really nice double strike thing. It's got that really nice thing where when it attacks, you get those energy counters, and then you have to pay. Is that 8? These things are really hard to like count because they're really like pushed close together. I wish they would have like the little parentheses. They have it for 2 energy counters, but they don't have it for that. I'm pretty sure that's 8 from glancing at it. So you pay a lot, and you get basically like a, I don't know, there's like that dragon that does that, where you like untap all your things, or you get an additional combat step, basically, which is really strong. I think, from what I gather from this card, I think it's gonna fall really easily into a lot of removal because it's a pretty big threat. Yeah, it's a good card. I really like this. Okay, then we have Kari, Skyship Raider. She is awesome. I really like her. I feel like a lot of this set is, there's a lot of small but really good threatening creatures. So she's a 1/3. She doesn't get blown out to shock, which I'm actually going to talk about a little bit later in this video. So yeah, she's a 1/3. She's got First Strike and Menace, and I feel like, and I was listening to something or reading something, and someone said those are interesting things to put together. However, so, she's got to be double blocked, but she's got First Strike, so she does damage first, which is just really awesome, so it makes her harder to kill. Whenever she attacks, and she gets a 2/1 Monkey. The flavor on this card is awesome. Even if you don't like this card, like, for what it does, the flavor is just on point. Like, it's really awesome. Then you get a 2/1, tap and attacking, so you have that, like, Geist of St. Traft, that type of effect, making her really, really solid. So I'm really impressed by this card. I think it's a really solid bomb. But what I like about it is that it's not like a 6/6 threat flying thing, because I feel like a lot of people can get blindsided by those and then lose track of like the things in the early game that are really threatening, because let me tell you something. I've been to pre-releases before where I'm on that early game strategy where I'll run cards like this. I'm trying to remember what pre-release I went to, and my deck was moving like along so quickly, and I had a card. It was kind of similar to this, I think. Something like it gave me a token or whatever, and I remember just blowing at my opponent on like turn like 7 because they just didn't do anything because their game was waiting for the later game strategy. So if you want to run a really, really aggressive strategy towards the early game, that's to me one of like my favorite deck design things that when I think of in a pre-release draft setting that I really like, those really beat down aggressive, very fast red decks that don't do necessarily quite as well in the late game, but in the early game, if your opponent doesn't have anything and they're on that late game strategy, you just beat them in the face, and cards like this really help out by getting you a token, which is awesome. So, okay, she's great. And Kari's expertise. Hold up, she's legendary. Okay, why? I kind of want to make a red commander deck around her. That would be really sweet. I've been thinking about making a red commander deck. There's a color that I don't really expect. I don't have any of my EDH decks. I mean, I'm taking out Red of Super Friends, so Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so Kari Zev's expertise. I love gain control effects. This is like active treason, but just better. So it's active treason, you gain control of target creature or vehicle, which I really like. I think that's a really interesting sort of thing. It gains haste, so you have that whole ability. I love doing things like this. I remember when, and why am I blanking on what that card was? Black 3 mana 2/2, sack a creature, gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I remember when like you're running like that black-red sack deck where like you take control of their creature, you swing, you sack their thing, and your thing gets bigger. Really awesome strategy. I don't really know if this is I don't know if there are any real sacrifice things in this set that I'm really thinking about, but regardless, you take control of someone's creature, really good type of strategy. Love cards like this. And on top of that, you have that sweet, you know, cast the card with converted mana cost 2 or less. I'm really interested to see how these expertise cards play out. I just think they're all really solid. Like, I love when they do this sort of thing where, like, they come out with, like, a 5 of a card, you know, one in every color, like an expertise, you know, like the Lorwyn 5, that whole thing. I'm like, they're all really solid. So I think all these expertise cards are really awesome. I'm just really interested to see how they play out with that casting something 2 for free. So I just think it's really good. I'm very excited to see how these cards, how people use them. Aether Chaser. So, these are another a set of cards that I really like, another set of this 5. It's a really aggressive creature, you know, it's a 2 mana 2/1, it's got first strike, which I love that evasion. You get 2 energy counters, and then when it attacks, you can make a 1/1. Those 1/1 servo artifacts, really important in this set. You know, you're gonna help your crew, they're gonna help any of the things where you need to sack an artifact or whatever. So I think they're really good. Or again, if you're doing that really aggressive sort of strategy, like I want to kill you on turn 6 kind of thing, this is like a good card I think to have because it gives you more threats on the board, or more blockers if you need to be defensive. I love cards that are versatile and like attackers and blockers, and I think this card is like that. So then we have Release the Gremlins. This is, I think, a really important card in this set because people are going to be running a ton of artifacts that you're going to want to get rid of. So the fact that you not only get to destroy artifacts, you get to create, you know, these gremlin tokens. So if they have a lot of vehicles, this is like the anti-vehicle card, basically. However, it does cost a lot. I feel like they could have, I don't know if giving this card Improvise would be way too much. I feel like that would be kind of breaking this card, but it's got the double X, so it's going to be a little bit hard to cast, so it is a very mana-intensive card. You're going to be casting this definitely towards the later game, but I like that it's a flexible X cost, so you can destroy as many artifacts or as little artifacts as you need to, and then on top of that, you just get dudes, which is awesome, so I like it. Flavor of this card is pretty great. Then we have Freejam Regent. I really like that it has the word jam in this card, because if you can't tell, I've been saying that a lot recently. So, okay, I love cards like this. I always love seeing that demon, angel, dragon sort of big thing, and then I guess the blue version would be like a sphinx or something, and then, why am I blanking on like green? I guess just a really big beast, but I love those just really big-bodied creatures. One of my friends, every time I say, like, bodied, I always think of my one friend who says, like, yo, I just bodied that kid. Like, he plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And he says that all the time, and I just think it's really funny. So every time I say bodied, that's what I think of. Yo, I just bodied that kid. Like, we were playing a game, and I just destroyed his face. Yeah, that. Okay, so, anyways, it's got Improvise, which is sweet. It's also got Flying, which I love. And on top of that, you know, you can make it bigger. This is like Shivan Dragon, but like, potentially a little, I don't know, I guess a little bit better, because it's 2 mana to give it +2/+0, so you can just make this thing really big, which I like. So, I like this. I think this is a really solid card, and a really solid bomb, because as I was saying, I feel like a lot of the stuff in this set are like, a lot of smaller, really good type of creatures, like Kari Zev, but like, this is like a really good, like, big threatening thing, so I like it. Alright, then is Reckless Racer. I think this card's really solid. I mean, like, honestly, they could have stopped at a 3 mana 2/3 first strike as an uncommon, and I think that would be a really solid thing. But whenever it becomes tapped, discard, and then draw a card, which I think is really awesome. I like that card advantage. Just kind of a nice looter. which I like. It's interesting though, discarding a card and then drawing a card. I think that's an interesting type of thing that I feel like I haven't seen too much. But I do think that this is a really solid card. I mean, I think it's a nice thing. It's also a nice body, you know, after you know, it becomes tapped, you know, just having a 2/3 first strike is just really good to have around. So I like it. Enraged Giant. I just, hold up, there's a hair. Oh my gosh. I just shed like everywhere. Like I can't. Okay. Enraged Giant. I love cards like this. As I was saying, I love those really, really big things. So it's got improvise, but honestly, I don't even care if you don't get that off. 6 mana for a 4/4 trample haste is like good. So the fact that they like stapled improvise onto this is just like magical Christmas line, basically, because this card's awesome. It's a super big threat. I have like a really hard time like dealing with in games creatures who just have trample and haste. Like trample to me, whenever at least I find whenever I'm playing like draft or pre-release events, whenever someone has a trampler, I'm just like, how do I need to get this thing off the table, because I'm just like, I just can't deal with that. I need to get their thing, you know, gone. Flying, okay, that's fine, but trample, I'm like, yo, needs to get rid of. So I feel like in a limited sense, to me, I just think trample is just like nuts. Like, I think it's amazing. So I really like this card. Again, I think the whole thing with improvise and how I look at it from, you know, from a perspective of not playing with this set, I feel like it's just kind of like an added bonus. If you get it off, sweet, but I don't feel like a lot of the stuff is, oh my gosh, if you don't get the improvise cost, you're missing out so much. Like, again, I feel like if you don't even get the improvise, like, even making this cost 1 less, like, a 5 mana trample haster for a 4/4 is really, really good. So, I think this card's sweet. I like it a lot. Next is Hungry Flames. This is a really interesting type of card. I like it. I like that it does a little bit of damage to a creature and then to a player, which I think is good. So you're always going to get that 2 damage to target player, but you have the chance of killing something to do 3 damage to their thing. It's instant speed, which I really like. It's a good sort of removal spell, but it also does damage to their face, which you really want. So yeah, I think this card's a solid sort of removal spell that also does damage to your opponent. Next is Wrangle. So again, I really like the gaining control of target, you know, players things. And I think it's interesting that they put 2 of them in this set, which to me is really interesting because I don't feel like I mean, maybe there have been 2 of those printed in a set. I mean, this one's like different. It is with power 4 or less. However, like I said, I think there's a lot of really solid stuff between like 2 and 4 mana that I think you're going to be pretty happy, I think, just to take something like that. Gain control of it, you know, has haste, you can smack them in the face with it. I think is really solid, so I like that card. Next is Destructive Tampering. I really like the versatility of this card. First, it's got that really important ability of being able to destroy target artifact, which, you know, you're gonna want to do that. But I really like that creatures without flying can't block. I love the versatility. I love the fact that you have both options so you can do whatever one you want. And I like it because to me, like, this is a card that I feel like you could just probably mainboard this card and be fine with it. I can understand when people would just save this for sideboard, but I think you could just mainboard this and probably be okay because they're probably going to be running some artifacts that you're going to want to get rid of. And, you know, the fact that creatures without flying can't block, unless your opponent is really playing a flying strategy, they may have a couple of flyers, but probably not a handful. They're probably like sprinkled out throughout their deck, you know, just because, hey, flyers are great. But unless they're playing a flying strategy, just the fact that to have this card is just, I think, really, really good. I like this. I feel like you could just completely blow out your opponent with a card like this. But again, I feel like if it was one or the other, I really don't think this card would be as good, but I feel like you have the versatility of that, so great sideboard card. Next is Sweatworks Brawler. Again, I mean, honestly, I keep thinking of improvise with all those 1/1 tokens, so if you have like 3 of those, this is just a 3/3 menace for 1 mana, which is just nuts. Yeah, I really dig this card. I love Menace. I think it's a really awesome mechanic, and I love how it's become sort of like a regular mechanic, because I feel like some are very specific towards certain sets, like Convoke, for example. But, like, you know, this is Menace to me has become, like, a regular mechanic, like Flying, First Strike, Death Touch, Lifelink, like that whole thing. And I think that's awesome. So I'm a huge fan. I think it's a really awesome evasive strategy. And, again, I personally feel like they could have just cut Improvise out of this card and made it a 4/3/3 Menace, 4 mana 3/3 Menace, and I would have been like, yo, that's really sweet. So I think this card's really great. And the next card is, and the last card actually, is Shock. I know a lot of people are probably really excited that this card is being reprinted. This card's great. I mean, it's instant speed, it has that versatility, you can do damage to a player or creature, your opponent's on their last bit of life, and you're like, hey bro, shock you. Or it gets rid of a creature, or it helps get rid of a creature. You know, you go through your combat phase, their creature blocks, you're like, shock it, do initial 2 damage, kills their creature. Again, I just think versatility is just really good in this card, so I like it. I'm excited that this card is being reprinted. I think it's really solid, so. Yeah, guys, that was it for talking about red cards in Aether Revolt. Stay tuned for tomorrow, where we're talking about green. We've got green left, and then I have artifacts, like colorless cards, lands, and multicolored cards. So check out for both those videos. Those are going to be Thursday and Friday, and I'll talk to you guys. Wait, hold up. Red is going, okay, sorry, green, and colorless, all that stuff is going both on Friday. I got really confused for a minute because I'm like, weird, it's like 2 videos are going out on Friday, so yeah. Talk to you guys later. Bye.